What's happening, folks? We're just gonna do a bit of a weekly reflection on how my week went. So last week I only traded once last week. It was Tuesday. Took a sell. I took a buy, I believe, actually. Let me just change that. Yeah, so I took a buy on Tuesday. I only traded once last week. I mean, looking at the sort of options there were, um, last week was pretty stacked with news on certain days. Few days of the week, majority of the week I was actually working. So um, based on how the markets were looking in the morning, sort of determined whether I would look to get involved or not. And I think the sort of main options for me, reflecting back on the week, was Tuesday and Friday. I opted not to trade on Friday on the basis that so far that week I'd only traded once. I'm not in the best position for the week to potentially risk a little piece and see what happens. And I thought it was the best decision to not potentially risk a losing trade at the end of the week when I can just take that win into next week and start fresh on Monday again. So pretty happy with that. In terms of analysis and what was going on for the week, where I wanted to buy from based on my weekly outlook, that's where I got my trades on Tuesday. And then of course the sell options. I'm just going to look back at basically the points I had across the week and sort of my weekly outlook, the points I wanted to buy and sell from, and just kind of go through that and see where there are options in and around there. In my trading time frame and of course outside of my trading time frame, but more so London into New York, not really in the evening. So just starting on looking at this, I'm in the replay tool. So this was the previous week prior to the last. That's how we closed. And my sort of main points, there was a couple from the week before that I did want to include, but the main ones for me was of course here, here, and most likely in and around here. And if from a seller's perspective, I did have a line here and here, but it's really close. And these were the main sort of areas I was looking at potentially selling below, or where I felt like would have been provided the best opportunity given I seen what I needed to see. And of course buying above there just a lot cleaner in terms of where we change structure to the upside. And of course the same again here, cleaner sells above there, cleaner buy, sorry. But just going to flick through into the replay tool, and this is the sort of price action leading into my session, and a bit of indecision in there. It's a bit rangy. We are below this mid-range resistance. You can clearly see the price closed below on Friday, remained below, and then we've sort of broke above, failed to remain support above, and we've closed back below again. So when I came to the session on Monday, I usually start my session around 7 or just after. This is a sort of price action when I'm getting to the chart. So 6 o'clock open with some volume on first, the second hour into the new 4 hour. And then we're sort of already down at the sort of range lows here. So nothing's really attractive for me here. So it was more of a no trade day for me on a Monday. In terms of my areas, structure below the target 150 at 200. There was no real structure below here. This is London open, and then my sort of session is ended here. But just looking at this on the 4 hour, on the 30 minutes, sorry, this was one of my main areas across the board. Clearly see when the session starts, we close strongly here with a lot of momentum, you could say, in that one candle. Looking at it on the 15, it's quite strong, and on the 5 there is some volume in there. So based on that, potentially sell below there. However, I'm sort of looking at this as structure based. If we have supports down here, resistance at the top, this could be like a mid-range support. We've held support here, closed below, and then we've continued down to the next structure points, which makes a lot of sense. But it's very early in the session for me. It's not something I'm trading, or I'm even at the chart at that time. So no real nothing really to talk about there on the Monday. on the Tuesday, let me just see what time we're at here. Yeah, so for me on Tuesday, I think I actually got my buys on Wednesday. Apologies, I think it says it was Tuesday earlier, but when I come to the charts on Tuesday, I'm looking for sells. Reason being, similar to the previous day, in that we're sort of below this little mid-range support and resistance. And the range I'm talking about is the highs, the lows, got mid-range resistance, mid-range support. Sort of thought process I had coming into this session was if we can remain below this resistance, and we start to break down below the previous 4-hour low, especially below this low, there's potential to see downside down to that next area of interest. So that was my thought process going into the session on Tuesday. But of course, as the session played out, it was just straight buys more so on the session. And looking at this, this makes a lot of sense. When I reflected back on this session on the day, buys did make a lot of sense. And same sort of approach. Where were we before? The little mid-range here. This is our Asian range from the day before. All we've done is broke above structure, pull back into structure, left structure, tested highs, continuation. So made a lot of sense. But when price was in and around up here, I wasn't so comfortable taking buy options in here because I was primarily looking for sales in the session anyway. So this was more no trade day for myself. But reflecting on the session and improvements, you can clearly see that we're bullish, higher supports, we're above the sort of mid-range. Yes, we're at previous resistance looking left, but if we're playing targetability and ranges, essentially up here in the highs is going to be the max target. If volume is in the market as well, London Open, clearly breaking above these highs, options to get involved. See what happens here, see what happens here, look for continuation. Stops can be below, any breakdowns, close trade. So there was options there on Tuesday for myself in reflection, but my sort of focus was set on sells. So Tuesday, no trade day for me. Just looking at Wednesday then, this is essentially where I got involved in buy options. And I'm really liking the structure I'm seeing here. We're at this, that's an awful line. I can just probably draw it like this. This is what I'm looking at coming into the session. This is our range. Price is forming higher supports. Pushing up higher supports. Session bias is bullish. I know that above here is where I'm looking cleaner buys. So if I just fast forward the session candle, or sorry, not the session candle, this is the session candle here. Clearly see that once we get above here, we continue, and that is what I was looking for. So I got involved in buys then on Wednesday, and Wednesday was CPI as well. So Monday, not a lot of news sort of to worry about during the session. Tuesday, bit of GBP, bit of Euro news, but on Wednesday it was CPI. So allowing CPI to sort of give an indication as to where price wants to go. Clearly see there's a lot of momentum in this candle here based on the news. Of course we are bullish, we're creating higher supports, higher resistances, we're breaking out of this overall range, we're entering into clean area. Now, although this is a clean area looking left, if I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, where does price want to go to? The most recent support and resistance in terms of time is going to be here. So when I'm trading in here looking for opportunities, my targetability and my target points are going to be up here because this is a support, and of course up at the resistance. But I know this move down is heavily due to news, so I can't just take for granted that we're going to get a clean candle straight up, because these levels were heavily important prior to this move, and leaving this zone and coming back and pushing for the continuation. So I was quite worried when we were pushing in and reacting of these levels in here. So on Tuesday, or on buys, yeah, let me just bring this on. This was my opportunity here on Wednesday. And I sort of bought here. Keep having this fucking tool on. I bought here, I was targeting up to here. You can clearly see the price does get up here. Brilliant. However, I closed my trade out prematurely somewhere in and around here. Reason being, I seen reaction from this 4-hour prices coming down, and I closed my position. So I closed it for, you know, a small amount of profit. But in reflection, you know, there's a lot going for me here in this setup. We have a bullish bias. We're breaking out of a higher time frame structure. There's clean traffic left. We're entering into a volume time. There's momentum with news and CPI, giving price that ultimate push. If volume is to come with London open in that direction, there's a good chance to see further continuation. So, looking at lower time frame structure as well, is there any real indication here to say the price is going to reverse, or it's going to pull back, or it's going to go bearish? Not so much on the 30. You have a little pause here, a little pullback to this daily mid-range resistance, which is this level. Fuck me, I hate doing that. You can clearly see that we're above this. You pull back and respect this, and then push. This is it here. We form a target above, pull back to previous structure, continue. 5 minute, 15 minute. There's no real indication here based on structure that price is going to, you know, come down any lower, or there's nothing to say get out of the trade, manage the trade. Essentially, my management for this trade was, I have this 1-hour resistance, or this 1-hour support zone that we can see when we've pushed in, we've reacted, pushed in, reacted. So now that we've closed above, my management for this trade was, if price comes back any lower than this, I'm going to manage the trade, because that's most likely going to look like a reaction and rejection of this level on a higher time frame. But of course, once price got up to here and started to fuck about on the lower time frames, when candles haven't closed yet, that's when I obviously thought, you know what, I'm going to close here. Because my thought process was, well, I'm already in profit here. I don't want to see price come all the way back to here. I think that would be foolish of me to do that. But again, in doing that and taking that action, I didn't give myself the chance for my trade to play out. And that's sort of where my downfall was, where I didn't trust my analysis. And it's strange because this is the area I planned all week as the safest area for buys. So if this is most likely going to give me the best opportunity and the clear opportunity out of all the buy opportunities, potentially, in my opinion, I need to give it time to play out. That's going to be an improvement for me going into next week. I want to trust my analysis more, not make as much rash decisions in the trade, and manage my upside. I think that's a big focus for me, so that's what I'm going to focus on. So that was my only trade this week, but clearly see that price did play out and achieve full targets. So let me just take that off. Okay, so we sort of got the buys above here. This was the other position I was looking for buys. Let me just check that, change that color. And for buys above here, I wanted to see structure hold. I wanted to see price close above, hold support above, even if price pull back as deep as this, these zones here, this resistance here. If price can come back up, you know, we can look to enter, target this, and then push on to the, you know, the sort of higher time frame target from the weekly outlook. However, price formed a weak support, and then it couldn't continue, and we started to roll over. So there was no continuation per se above this area for cleaner buys, and again, that would have been outside of my trade session. It would have been sort of leading into pre New York session, so it would have been just something to keep an eye on to see if it did happen, but it didn't. So going into Thursday. So this is the session bass on Thursday, which is mixed. So in terms of what we were doing previous, I really liked the option to sell on Thursday. And the reason I was favouring sells, some people might look at this and say buys. And the reason they say buys is because we're moving up and we've pulled back to a previous level of structure support. And now we can do this, which I completely agree with. However, what my focus on was, well, we're moving up. But what this candle's done is it's validated the most recent support. So when I was thinking of, well, if I was buying here, I think my buys could potentially be short-lived. And the reason being is because since we have closed below the most recent structure point support, we have validated structure. So there's a couple of things that can happen. Price can either pull back, form a lower resistance somewhere within the previous support and resistance and roll over, which was my initial thought. I would have preferred to take sells. Or price can pull back and that can give you buys originally. You know, you can take the buys up on the sort of pullback, because it might not be a pullback, it might just continue. So you could just keep buying and buying and buying. Or price might pull in, form some form of lower resistance, but that lower resistance might pull back to the previous structure point, which can then be an area for higher support to test the top end of that range and ultimately the new target. So those were the things. And you know, what one thing I'm thinking of is, well, if I'm buying, I want to be buying obviously above that 4 hour there, because that's going to be the most recent lower resistance on a lower time frame. But if I'm buying above that, I'm buying straight into a support. I'm also buying into a daily resistance, which is also a 4 hour resistance. There's also a daily support here. There's also this support zone range. And then of course you've sort of got this overall. Now you could get buys into here, but it just didn't interest me. What I was more interested in doing was selling below here. You know, because if I look at this, my thought process is, well, if we start to push up and we can't sustain a move up and we start to break down, we break below the previous 4 hour, we're below this support. We're now below this lower time frame support. There's clean traffic here. That's what I want to capture. That's what I'm looking for. And if I just play the session out, if I just get one 4 hour candle, that is our session. So the session did offer potential buys. Looking at the 1 hour, it's not something that really interests me, based on what I was saying before. But this is London Open. London Open has been consistent with volume and bigger movements. So looking at the 30 minute, the 15, you could clearly see how this 15 here, 8:15, makes a lot of sense. You've got resistance, you've got support, you've got support, you've got structure in here. We're moving up, we break out, pull back, close above not only this resistance but this support. Now we're trading within this zone. Where's the next target? Looking left, this resistance. We're in volume time. You buy this, stops below here, target that. Makes a lot of sense. But again, that's sort of improvements in reflection and being able to play both sides in a mixed bias based on experience and comfortability. But this is what I was sort of looking for. So this obviously 4 hour formed from 9 to 1, and then of course later on in the day, that's what happened. So I was potentially looking for something like this within my session. Maybe this candle pushed up, we failed, we started to break down, and as price, you know, comes down, I can then look to potentially capture that move. So that was my analysis. It just played out later on in the day, and just looking at that, we can clearly see that the pullback has pulled into previous structure. We tried to get above once, failed to do so, twice, failed to do so. This candle here clearly breaks below the most recent support. and then you sort of get that continuation. So you could ultimately play your triangle from here to here, and then look for your continuation. So that was Thursday. And then of course Friday. So let's just have a look at Friday here. So leading into the session, we're heavily bearish. 2 previous 4 hours leading into the session, it's bearish. We are trading at most recent support. Looking left, structure support. My thought process again was sells, and I didn't want to, if we pull back, I didn't prefer to sell from here. So I didn't really want to sell into this support, any sort of structure support that was maybe formed during Asian session. I'm more so looking to sell below and away from this. And if we're trading down here at a time of volume and momentum, there's no reason why price can't continue down into this support structure, cross into here, maybe even down to this next area of interest, and then of course maybe beyond that. But this was Friday, so I looked at my week and I says I've only traded once this week. It was a buy. It wasn't really that much profit in terms of percentage or anything like that. So I didn't really want to throw that away. I thought to myself, it's better for me just to, plan but not take action and just see what happens. So just looking at the session then, you can clearly see that, especially leading into London Open, this is what we're working with. So clearly see that we have Asian range here. It's so easy to read on the 1 hour. We can clearly see that we've formed lower resistance, pushed down, formed a new target, pulled back, lower resistance, leading into London Open. There's no reason why, when we start to break down here, why we can't capture that move, and the next hour, boom, volume comes in, kicks down. So I had this trade planned, and we had a really good discussion on Friday. A few of us are regarding our trades and are planning for this, and everything we discussed, from selling below here to selling within here and above here, made a lot of sense, and they all played out. So that's great to see from a confidence perspective. So I'm hoping to take this into next week. But that's sort of my reflections on the week. Just sticking to sort of 30 and 1 hour, and sort of clean ranges and clean targets for the month of March. So far I made the decision, maybe the beginning of the month, to just pull the 15 from my trade plan, solely just trade the 30 in the 1 hour. And so far it's been an improvement. My results have been better. The only trades I've taken since then have all been wins. 4 trades or so for the month, which isn't quite a lot, but when you're trading a higher time frame during times of volume, you are going to miss moves. But if I'm able to go back in the day and highlight those and bring those forward, then there's no reason why I can't bring that back into the trade plan at some stage. But that's sort of my reflections on the week and the sessions, and based on the sort of areas I wanted to trade. So clearly see that the areas to sell were, there was more price action around those areas straight the week, and we only sort of got above the area to buy just once. But what I'm going to do now is just bring this forward into my weekly outlook and just discuss then my areas of interest for the week. So that's what I'll do. So that's my reflection on that week and how that went.